Africa Day is intended to celebrate and acknowledge the successes of the Organization of African Unity, known as African Union, from its creation on 25 May in 1963 in the fight against colonialism and apartheid, as well as the progress that Africa has made while reflecting upon the common challenges that the continent faces in a global environment. At its core, the African Union stands for promoting Africa's growth and economic development by championing citizen inclusion and increased cooperation and integration of African states. In most recent years, terms such as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, Agenda 2030, and more recently, Agenda 2063, are terms that bear weight in the various spheres on society in Africa. But many small business owners, informal traders, and owners of social enterprises don't fully understand what these agendas and agreements are, but more importantly, how they can impact them, either through economic opportunities they present or the areas of collaboration and capacitation that they make available. This webinar that we have titled Trade in Africa seeks to make this information not only known, but understandable to actors operating in the spaces of ethical trade, voluntary sustainability standards, small business owners, owners of social enterprises, and informal traders. Good morning. On the panel this morning to walk us through unraveling the jargon, we have Dr. Francis Mangeni, Senior Fellow at the Nelson Mandela School of Public Governance and advisor to the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, and Mr. Moses Mlangeni, who has over 15 years work experience as an economist. He has lectured economics at the University of Johannesburg and the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. He spent 7 years as an economist in the Provincial Treasury under the Western Cape government and is currently manager of economic growth at Drakenstein municipality. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Musa.
Good
and
morning.
Good morning to all the viewers and listeners out there.
Thank you so much. So as we interact on this conversation, our main aim here is really just to have us debunk, if you may, what this AfCFTA is about, how small businesses stand to benefit, what opportunities have been made available, talk about business readiness as well from an economic growth perspective. So we invite you as our listeners, as the viewers on Facebook and on YouTube to engage with us, ask us questions, comments, be part of the conversation in case there are gaps in information that you need filled, and let us use this platform to fill you in on whatever you need more information on. But I think to kick us off, we'll start with you, Dr. Francis. If you could just, in the most basic language, tell us what the AfCFTA is.
So good morning to you, Musa, and good morning to you, my brother Mlangeni. You know, our names are similar. There's just an L which is missing in mine, you know. Yeah, though I come from Eastern Uganda, but I could pass for many other nationalities: Malawian, Swatini, South African, even in West Africa. Actually, they have got a very Pan-African name. So thank you so much, my sister Musa, for hosting us and for giving the Secretariat an opportunity to participate in this conversation. We are very happy indeed to be here and to engage the participants, and welcome to all the participants as well. So now, as asked by Musa, what's the African Continental Free Trade Area? It is an organization covering all the 55 countries of Africa. Africa has 55 countries, aiming to create a single trade space to remove barriers to trade so that trade can happen more easily And this is trading goods, and it could also be trading services. And
Okay.
this is trade done by big companies, by small companies, by associations, and by individuals, by anybody. All that is required for this trade to happen freely on the continent and for the exports that you are exporting not to face the usual barriers is that this product should qualify to be made in Africa. Now, for a product to qualify to be made in Africa, there are certain criteria or conditions, which are called rules of origin. Now, these conditions try to ensure that the product has sufficient local content. So we don't want a product coming from China and then it passes for made in Africa, and that product also tries to be traded freely on the market. No, we want only those products that have sufficient local content, and that therefore can be said to be made in Africa. This is supposed to increase our trade, and therefore to increase jobs, to increase incomes, so that our lives, the lives of our people, can be better. The living standards can be better. So that's what the African Continental Free Trade Area is, to create a single space across Africa to increase trade, increase jobs, and improve our standards of living. Now, I don't know whether you want me to go on a little bit and explain the history, where we are coming from.
Yeah, maybe just give us a bit of a history
Yes.
where this came from.
So the idea of African unity, as in fact Musa you have pointed out, goes back to the 50s, actually, during the heydays of Pan-Africanism. You will recall people like Kwame Nkrumah who were saying, Africa must unite.
Yeah.
So the struggle for decolonization was also a struggle for economic emancipation. We were always fighting for two things: political emancipation and then economic emancipation, in order to improve our lives as Africans. So now, over the years, we have been establishing institutions one after another, adopting programs one after another. So the institutions include the Organization for African Unity, which was established in 1963 on the 25th of May. Then in 1991, we established the African Economic Community and a treaty called the Abuja Treaty. This was a treaty which set out a 34-year blueprint to create the African Economic Community over that period of 34 years. That's by the year 2028. So there are several stages that we're supposed to go through to progressively achieve this African Economic Community, which we are still working on, by the way. And the eventual African Economic Community will be an African Economic and Monetary Union. That means we shall have a single currency and a single government as well, eventually, if all goes as planned. Then in the year 2000, we formed the African Union. And then by the year 2002, it was up and running, fully up and running, and we have it now. Now, in the year 2013 is 50 years from 2063, we decided to look forward to say, all right, this is how far we have come over the last 50 years. Where do we want to go?
Okay.
So we adopted what's called Agenda 2063. Now, the year 2063 will be again 50 years from 2013. So Agenda 2063 is another 50-year blueprint going forward, and it aims to achieve an Africa that is united or integrated, peaceful, prosperous, driven by Africans, and internationally influential. So this is the vision of Africa. It's called the Africa we want, which is integrated, peaceful, no wars, prosperous, improved living standards, and internationally influential. We drive the international agenda, or the international agenda covers what we want to do. Now, in Agenda 2063, there are 15 flagship programs covering infrastructure, trade, cybersecurity, e-learning, as well as culture, the cultural renaissance. If you remember the Thabo Mbeki's, we're talking about Africa Rising and African Renaissance. Now, one of these flagship programs is the African Continental Free Trade Area. So this program then focuses all the efforts of Africa towards creating a single trade and economic space as we are continuing on this long journey towards creating the African Economic Community, which we hope to achieve by the year 2028. So then this is a solid step that has been taken. And we are quite ambitious about it. There's high political momentum about it, high political ownership of it. President Cyril Ramaphosa just hosted a summit recently on the 5th of December last year, 2020, to make sure that we can start actually trading on the African Continental Free Trade Area. And as we speak now, trading has started as from the 1st of January 2021. We are now trading on the African Continental Free Trade Area. So that's why
Can
we're
I
coming.
hold you there,
Yes.
Doc? And just so that we bring balance to the conversation, maybe Moses, you can then just introduce yourself and let us know as well what you do in this space, so that as the conversation continues, we can then together tie in and journey.
Okay, thank you, Musa, and good morning to the viewers and the listeners out there. As Musa has introduced me, my name is Moses Mlangeni. I'm a manager for economic growth at Drakenstein Municipality, which Drakenstein is the second biggest municipality in the Western Cape. You have the city of Cape Town, then Drakenstein is the second biggest municipal area. And what I do here is what in the local government space is previously called local economic development. So in other words, we try to look at how can we assist, whether it's households or firms, you know, within the municipal area, to enhance their incomes. You know, if it's households, you know, we do provide free basic services to households. Some households, especially that are indigent, but we do know that it's something that is not sustainable. So we always try to intervene and say, okay, instead of us giving you free basic services, how can we help you to, you know, improve your income situation? You know, whether it's starting your own business, the informal sector. This is where our work in the informal sector comes in. You know, we look at spaza shops, people that have a business in their homes. You know, we look at street traders. Then we look at just SMMEs in general. So with street traders, what we do is we assist them with things like trading permits, and then we demarcate spaces where they can trade from. And then we often, you know, do site visits to all the areas where informal traders operate from, just to check, you know, the conditions under which they operate, be it the cleanliness of the areas, the security, safety and security in those areas. And we also try to facilitate things like training. You know, most of our informal traders, sometimes you find they lack in business skills. So we try to facilitate or connect them with service providers that can train them on financial management, business management, just generally running their business. And to some extent also, we try and facilitate or connect them, you know, to funding opportunities if they are such opportunities out there. So yeah, we really do get our hands full. And what excites us is the, you know, the diversity in terms of the goods that these informal traders deal in. You know, you've got your food traders, you know, people that cook food, and we have crafters, a lot of crafters, that do, whether it's beadwork, whether it's curios, clothing as well. We've got a lot of small businesses that make clothes and sell in the streets around Drakenstein. So that diversity, it excites us, but we are aware that there are various other sectors of the economy where we do not see a lot of, activity of small businesses. For example, we concerned about the manufacturing, because most of the small businesses are into retail, selling. But we would like to see a lot more small businesses getting into the manufacturing space. We do have a few small businesses that are that play in the space of construction. The subcontractors, and then they're involved in whether it's civil construction of the roads, or it's building of houses. So we do have something called a contracted development program, so where we help the contractors. But coming to the topic of the day, let me firstly thank the World Fair Trade Organization for organizing this event in such a very special month for us here in Africa. It's Africa Month. Well done to the World Fair Trade Organization. And as Dr. Mangeni has outlined the history and the background of the African Union, or the Organization of African Unity, then in 1963 when it was founded. I think the founders will be very happy to know that today we are having this conversation, about our continent, how we can improve the movement of goods within the continent, and for the World Fair Trade Organization, I really appreciate the fact that you showed the interest in the small businesses, the small SMMEs, the informal sector, so it is really much appreciated. I can just start by explaining or telling you about a certain experience that I had. It was about a couple of months ago. I went into a shop in Maitland. Maitland is a small little a town close to Cape Town. So I went into this shop, and it's like an African goods shop, and they sell everything from food to clothing to some craft. And I just made an assumption. I thought, it looks like, these things, I wonder if they're from Congo or from Nigeria. I was just, just trying to guess where all these things is coming from. And after having a conversation with the lady who owned the shop, she told me she's from Cameroon. I was like, wow, I didn't even expect that foods will be moved from Cameroon to South Africa, So I was quite very surprised that we have here in South Africa such a variety of food or goods that is coming from everywhere from the continent. I think from that perspective, and for the purpose of this discussion, I hope as we talk further, Dr. Mangeni, and we're getting into the issues, about this type of trading that is currently happening, and this new free trade agreement that we know is now being put in place, and trying to match these two situations. So in short, what I'm saying is there has been trade, there is ongoing trade amongst Africans, getting food or clothes from Ghana, from Kenya, Cameroon, Congo, South Africa actually is, I find South Africa to be such a special place, and for this discussion as well, where you find everything here from various African countries. So, but what is interesting to me is that trading has been happening, but the question is to understand all the the details and how has this thing been happening. We do know that there is black markets, there is really the informal way of doing things. But what interests me is now with this new free trade agreement, will we see more formalizing, these activities that have been happening all along, but they have been happening informally? Will we see that happening? One, and two, like Musa has said, we need to gauge and check the extent to which these traders, these small businesses out there, are they even aware of a thing like this, a free trade agreement? And do they understand any benefits that may come from this kind of agreement? And I would like to know from Dr. Mangeni, in terms of, from your side, what is the approach now of formalizing all these activities that we do know have been happening informally? Maybe let me park it there.
Okay.
And yes.
Thanks, Moses. I think, just I to kick off the conversation, Francis, maybe if you can just let us know about the rollout. We are aware that trading started on the 1st of January within the free trade area space. So what does that look like? What is that within the Africa intra-trade? What does that look like on a national level? What does that look like as a region? What does that look like then at provincial level? Is it staggered, or is it just all in one go?
Right. All right. Thank you, Musa, again. And I join my brother Moses Mlangeni in thanking you for organizing this event in a timely manner. But I also want to appreciate what Moses does. It's really, impressive and touching because you are actually in the, shall I say, on the front line, in the trenches. You are where the action should be. I think we need to work with our people in an inclusive manner to make sure that nobody is left behind. And the ones who really need help are the small ones, the small person. This is where I think the focus should be. So I really appreciate the work that you are doing. Now I'm going to answer the issues that my brother Moses has put to me. But let me start by just responding to one of the questions in the comment section by giving you some links that how can businesses in the informal sector get involved. So now, as we speak, I would like to invite you to look at the following links or URLs. Just open them, try check them out, play with them, and see whether you can make sense of them. Now, one is called the Africa Trade Observatory. That is ATO.Africa. This is a market intelligence tool. If you go there and you make an inquiry, for instance, I want to sell product X or service X, where is the market in Africa for this product? Where is the demand? Where are people who want to buy my product? You will get information. It will give you information about countries or companies that want this sort of product, so that you can get in touch with them. Then another one is called the Africa Medical Supplies Platform. Now the URL for that is amsp.africa. This platform deals with the medical products to address the pandemic. and that is it deals with therapeutics, diagnostics, even vaccines and other medical products, sanitizers and things like that. So anybody, any small company, even you in your home, you have come up with a product that you think can help in the fight against the pandemic or in protecting public health. You just upload your product, take a photo of it, even using your phone, upload it there, and then orders will start coming in for you to supply this product, and hopefully you can supply on scale. Then another one is trade barriers. Trade barriers is one word. Africa. Now, what this one helps you to do, it's interactive, is you can log on, and if you have any obstacle, any barrier in trading, in exporting your product, you can you can register a complaint. You can say what this problem is, and then the system is configured such that all the relevant focal points, there are focal points across the continent, will kick into action to help you address this barrier. Then lastly, I just want to make a general observation that we have got many online markets now uh, during this age of digitalization, which you can use even as a small business, so that the costs of advertising, of marketing, do not prevent you from doing your business. So you can use many online markets. So one of them that I would like to mention is called Sokoku. Sokoku is SOKOKWU.com. Now, this is an online market which targets actually to onboard about 600,000 small companies. And it's estimated by the owners of this company that they'll create 63 million jobs across Africa through this intervention. So there are many online markets which can be used. And I was also looking actually at fair trade. If you Google fair trade, there will be online markets that come up as well, which which can be used. So now that's what I wanted to say, so that maybe colleagues can start looking at some of these things, and we can interact with them during this conversation. Now, back to the question: will this trade that has been happening informally now be formalized? The answer is yes. That's actually what this is all about. We want to formalize it, not to criminalize it. We want to expedite it, to make it seamless, to remove barriers. I've just mentioned actually a link which helps you to address barriers and to grow it. We want these small operators to grow, to create jobs for themselves and for others, and to have decent incomes for themselves, their families, and their friends. So it's supposed to be formalized. So who actually helps in doing this formalization, this outreach that our sister Musa has talked about? So in every country, there are designated ministries that are the focal points for the African Continental Free Trade Area. And these ministries, in turn, work with all the relevant stakeholders within the country, whether it's chambers of commerce, local communities, and any other private sector organizations or local government organizations, by whatever name called, across the country, in order to mobilize the whole country to the effort and to help the country to benefit from the African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, for purposes of South Africa, it's the Department of Trade and Industry, which is headed by the Honorable Patel, Ibrahim Patel, the minister. And of course, we have got directors like Xavier Karim, who also are part of the team, very senior officials. But I believe that they are supposed to have now a decentralized system that reaches out to all parts of South Africa so that everybody can participate. But also initiatives such as the one we are having right now, this conversation we are having right now, can help in creating awareness, in disseminating information about the African Continental Free Trade Area so that everybody can come on board. It's also a means of getting feedback, for instance, for me, from the Secretariat, but also if government officials were here, for them to get feedback from the ground as to whether there's awareness, whether this is working well, and what needs to happen in order for it to work even better for the people. So maybe I can stop there.
Can I just
Yes.
ask Francis? Now, I would know that a major barrier in trade is tariffs. For many small businesses that are currently exporting, the issue of tariffs and a lot of paperwork and trading in Africa generally has not been the easiest. I mean, if I'm based in Cape Town and I'm trying to trade with someone in Rwanda, I probably have to have so many stamps, so many certificates, so many clearance forms completed before my product actually gets to Rwanda. And yet, if I'm going to trade with Europe, I just need to have my export and excise, my Euro 1 certificate, my certificate of origin, and my product goes to Europe. So I would like to find out, for the sake of the small businesses that are listening here who are currently exporting, just to motivate them to get to a space where they feel like maybe Africa is where I need to start to look at. What is the AfCFTA doing with regards to trade tariffs and all these administrative barriers?
Right. So now to directly answer that very important question, Musa, is that the tariffs are supposed to come down to zero. They're supposed to be eliminated. There's supposed to be no customs duties, no tariffs on products, except for those which a government, for strategic reasons, decides to exclude from the African Continental Free Trade Area. A country is allowed to exclude 3% of its total products. This can come to about 300 products to 600 products from trading, from being traded duty free on the market. But apart from that, all the other duties are supposed to come down to zero. Now, regarding the documentation and barriers in general, we have got these initiatives called trade facilitation. It is a key thrust of the African Continental Free Trade Area, as I have been saying, in simplifying trade, in making it happen more freely. Trade facilitation. This means documentation must be kept to the minimum, to the barest minimum. We don't want complex documents which increase the cost of doing business in terms of time taken and, of course, the expenditures that are involved, or the fees that would be involved. So there's supposed to be this continuous program for reducing documentation. As we speak now, there are two basic documents required for trading on the African Continental Free Trade Area. The first one is the certificate of origin, which certifies that this product is made in Africa. That means it has enough local content. And the second one is the customs declaration. This is the document which gives the name of the product and its value and such small details. So these are the two documents. Now, if there are additional documents, they have to be justified. Maybe if it's an agricultural product, maybe there could be a document which requires certification that this product is healthy, is not going to cause diseases around the region. Or if it is maybe a food product, maybe a document which certifies that this food is safe for human consumption. So that's why you have these national bureaus of standards, which give you a sticker on your product when you're producing it, just to protect human life and animal life as well, and plant life. Now, if there are additional documents like that, they have to be justified. But if you, as a trader, believe that a document is not justified, then you use that link called tradebarriers.africa to complain about it.
Okay.
Now, this actually works. I want to share with you another link, and it's called tradebarriers.org. The system for the African Continental Free Trade Area was actually cloned or borrowed from the one that we had in SADC, COMESA, and EAC, which is called tradebarriers.org. Now, that is exactly the same system. Now, if you go to that system, you will see that we were able actually to eliminate barriers on the basis of reports that were being made or complaints that were being made. And the success rate was more than 90%. More than 90% of the total complaints were actually addressed effectively. And we are talking about something close to 700 complaints over a period of about 80 years. Yeah. So this system it can actually work. But what I would like to end by saying, you mentioned Rwanda, and Rwanda is a good practice, as well as other countries, Kenya, Ghana, and so on, has established a trade portal. I believe South Africa also has a trade portal. This is an electronic system where anybody can log on and process a consignment, an exportation, or an importation. From the comfort of your room, you just log on to this website, and all the documents that you are required to process can be processed electronically. It's interactive. So there are trade portals which help you to navigate, these, problems we used to have in those days of paperwork, just by using electronic things. And they are called trade portals. They can have different names in different countries, but if you ask them, if you looked at the inquiry point of the country, for instance, the Department of Trade and Industry, it can direct you to the trade portal. And also, if you want to trade, say, with Rwanda, if you Google Rwanda trade portal, it will come up, and you can use it for processing your products. Now, I want to emphasize that actually these initiatives are meant to benefit the smallest of the operators, because the big people can manage quite well by themselves. They are sophisticated enough. But the small operators who have to survive, for whom the profit margins may be actually quite small, and can be eaten away if things are too costly to process. These initiatives are supposed to help them. They can use their phones. You can use your phone, even if you don't have a laptop, just to process all these things I'm talking about.
So my question would then be, Moses, how do municipalities, because this is from a government to a provincial level, how do municipalities get this information to the informal traders, the small businesses out there, so that, they get in tune with what is happening in Africa? They tap into opportunities like this and begin to trade with each other.
Yes. Thank you, Musa. It's as if you were reading my mind. That's like the next issue that I wanted to really be discussing. But let me say this for the benefit of, to Dr. Mangeni. And Musa, we don't have so much time. This is such an important discussion, but because of the limited time that we have, I really wish, Dr. Mangeni, let's see if we can squeeze as many issues in the few minutes that remain. Key issues, maybe we don't go in detail. For example, I'll answer your question, Musa, but these are the issues that I think we ought to sort of bring on this discussion. One, we need to talk about the issues of quality of product, because when you get involved in trade, it's going to be quality products. Let's talk about the quality of product. Let's talk about prices, right? Now, when it comes to prices, it's bringing me to an issue that I would like to hear your views, Dr. Mangeni. What are we saying about our brothers and sisters that live in Europe, that live in the US, that live in the Caribbean? I know this is a free trade a situation, Africa free trade. But I know that we do have a lot of Africans in Europe. We do have a lot of Africans in the Caribbean and the Africans in the US that are look at the music industry, for example. Musicians, we have so many musicians in the US. Their music comes into Africa. You understand? You have television, you have film, from those other continents that is coming into our space. So I would like to hear a little bit of your views in terms of, is this free trade now to what extent are we including those Africans that is out of Africa in trading? So that's the one. And linked to that, and is the issue of prices. Musa, if you are a business person here in South Africa, you want to sell your good or your product, right? One of the things that I have seen that businesses are doing, they want to sell their products where, you know, one where there's the demand, like I'm very grateful for all the links that Dr. Mangeni shared, because I had many questions around that. So, you know, where are the markets? Most markets have been, you know, Europe and the US, and maybe, I don't know where else, South America or even in Asia. But a business person, it will be, for me, beneficial if I sell to Europe. It's a pound and a euro. It's such a powerful currency. I will likely sell my products for, I may get more for my products if I sell them in Europe than maybe, what is the currency of Zimbabwe? What is the currency of Kenya? I don't know how strong these currencies are. So maybe this is what I have seen sometimes, directs where, you know, goods flow to. It would appear to me that goods would flow to where, you know, there are stronger currencies, and, you know, here I stand to make more. You know, I will sell my products in England, a pound to a rand. I know I'll get a lot more than there. So I think while we're having this conversation, we also need to bring that on the table to say, much as we want to encourage the trade among ourselves, what are we saying about selling to the rest of the world? I know we want to sell to Africa, but does this mean we must switch off now and say, I know, forget selling to England, forget selling to America, just concentrate on selling to Africa? Those are the issues that I want us to talk about. And you mentioned something, Musa, I think that, I think your question, you were saying, how do we then bring this to our informal traders? You know, we often hold, I think, something like Expo. We're having an Expo actually next week, an SMME Expo. You know, it's a platform where we bring all the SMMEs under one roof, you know, and share a lot of information about registration, about opportunities, about training. So I believe it is through such platforms that we will be able to engage with the SMMEs and give that information. So, for example, all these links that Dr. Mangeni has shared today, definitely we will put them out there on our expo, you know, and say, guys, here are some links that we want to encourage you to just check out, whether it's trade barriers, whether you're looking for a market for your products. You know, just check out these expos. But I think in the past, I used to hear the Department of Trade and Industry used to have things like, you know, taking our local businesses, the small businesses, to expos in Europe, to expos in the US, because it is through those expos that you will interact with potential you know, businesses or people who will demand your products. So yes, it's I do not believe it is difficult for a local government or even a provincial government to take the information down to the guys. We do have various forums, you know, and platforms where we engage with SMMEs that will be able to take them the information that is necessary for them. But definitely I want to hear from Dr. Mangeni about the issue of other Africans and the issue of currencies and the issue of quality in terms of the goods that we are trading here.
Dr. Mangeni, before you jump in, Moses, I don't think it's really about bypassing. I other forms of trade, like trade with Europe or America or anything like that. But we need to promote trade in Africa. And this is what we are trying to do in this space. We need to create a space where we begin to trade with each other and find value in trading with each other and find ease with trading with each other. So yes, while he's going to answer your questions, I feel like it's essential that we note that it's time that we begin to appreciate our own products that we are making for ourselves. If we look at what happened with COVID, there was a point where we had total lockdowns and we were not able to send wine to Europe or whatever. And now what does that mean for me as a wine farmer? Does that mean that I have to sit with my stock? Does it mean that I have to watch my stock rot? No. But I feel like platforms such as the AfCFTA then create an avenue for me to find channels within the African region for me to be able to sell my wine to other African countries who would be able to appreciate the product that I have. So while it is good for us to trade with Europe, Asia, America, and all of that, I would really appreciate us being patriotic about it and understanding how best we can cultivate the channels that have been made available for us to trade and appreciate the products that we have within ourselves. I also feel like this is an opportunity for us to better our united economy, if that is a thing. In that as we buy from each other, we add on the value to each other's products and therefore improve our economies. I feel like we need to get to a space where Africa is not looking so much, I mean, it's the reality. Their currencies are better than our currencies. Let's not run away from the fact. That's true. But we need to get to a place where we start to figure out how do we improve our own currencies so that we become major players as well in the world. If we keep looking outside for them to help us fix what is in here, I don't think we're going to win very quickly. But I will pass the questions over to you, Doc. Please answer. Doc, you're mute. You're mute.
Yes. You have answered it brilliantly. In fact, I have nothing useful to add. I really endorse everything you have said. Yeah, we need to be proud of what we have as Africa. And if we have any problems, I think we can always solve them. There's no problem that's impossible for us to solve. Now, let me just go then one by one, maybe to add on what you have said, my sister Mpofu, Musa, in responding to what our brother Mlangeni raised. Now, first of all, integrating as Africa doesn't mean we are closing out the rest of the world. Africa must always be a universal Africa. If you remember when we were talking about the vision of Africa, we want to be integrated, peaceful, prosperous, but influential in the world. So we have never had any intention of locking ourselves up and removing ourselves from the world. We must continue engaging with the world. We want the world to reflect our priorities as well. We want to be proactive, not reactive. The diaspora has in fact been recognized as the 6th Africa region. As you know, Africa has 5 regions. It has South, Central, East, West, and North. Now, the diaspora have been recognized formally as the 6th Africa region. In fact, at the AU functions, we normally get somebody from the Caribbean, like a prime minister or Barbados, to come and actually make a speech on behalf of the 6th region. So we are very much aware of the diaspora. But what we are saying about the African, with regard to the African Continental Free Trade Area, along the lines as our sister Musa was saying, is that we want to increase intra-Africa trade among ourselves. So we want all people of goodwill in the world, whether it's our partners, whether it's the diaspora, to come and produce on the continent, to add value. This is why I really endorsed what Musa was saying, to add value on the continent, to whether it's through beneficiation, whether it is through using the local raw materials that we have. They can come with the financing, with the technology, with knowledge. That is all good, but we produce on the continent. Having produced on the continent, we can export to the rest of the world. That's fine. It's a business decision, but we should also be able to export to the rest of Africa because there is enormous potential on the continent. If you look at many of the things that we import from China, from the rest of the world, they are actually available on the continent. It's just a matter of information. Sometimes our people don't know that the thing which they're importing from the US is actually available next door in the neighboring country. So we want to create this to increase this trade. Now, let me give you some numbers. Returns on investment in Africa are highest in the world. I don't know whether we knew this actually. They range from 10% or in some high risk areas to even 40%. So that's why everybody is rushing for Africa. I hope you know there's now something called the new scramble for Africa. There's a reason why people are coming here. So those people may have the pound, the euro, the dollar. Those are maybe high-powered currencies, high-value currencies. But profitability is highest in Africa. That's why those people with their euros, with their pounds, with their dollars, with their yuans, they are still rushing to come here to Africa. There is a reason why. So what is it they are seeing which we don't see ourselves? Right? So that's the question you should be asking. But I have given you that figure there of profitability. You can check it out with the investment surveyors around the world. You will see it for yourself. Now, the continental GDP economy, we are talking about a $3.4 trillion economy. As Africa, we are the fifth biggest economy in the whole world. We are the fifth biggest economy in the whole world. So there's weight, there is a value proposition that we can make to the world. We are something to reckon with. We're an economic power to reckon with together as Africa. We are a population of more than 1.3 billion people. That's a market. You're talking about a market of 1.3 billion people. Markets matter. The size of a market matters. If, for instance, you are producing for one province, you can only produce so much. But if you are producing for the whole country, you can produce more. If you are producing for the whole continent, you can produce even more, and therefore grow more, employ more people, and make more profits. It's economies of scale. The more the market, the larger the market, the more your prospects for growth. Yes. So now,
can I just disturb you there in terms of, because now you're talking about production. I want to find out within the AfCFTA capacitation. Are there any opportunities for capacitation? Because I mean, if we're looking at moving towards one African market, right? We cannot run away from the fact that South Africa's production capacitation is better than Zimbabwe's in some stages, and in some aspects, Botswana can be better than Namibia, etc., etc. Is there anything that the AfCFTA is doing with regards to capacitation? What opportunities are available in terms of production capacitation, so that as we begin to create these markets within ourselves for intra-trade, become stronger for export trade, if that makes sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, and you're spot on. Yes. So there are two ways of answering that. First of all, even without talking about financing technology, let's start with this idea of regional value chains. Okay. Regional value chains means that if South Africa is a big economy, maybe smaller economies in the neighborhood, like Lesotho, can also benefit by being integrated into the production structure. For instance, automotive. South Africa is producing all these products, these cars, very good cars, BMWs, Mercedes, which they export to the US and Angola. But the leather seats for these cars are produced in Lesotho. So Lesotho also benefits from this whole idea of value chains. So value chains means that we try as much as possible to allow small producers to tap into the production networks that are happening. So that means that we shouldn't view big economies with jealousy. No, we should see them as giving opportunities for smaller countries, smaller operators to also tap into these regional value chains to promote industrialization and
So,
transformation. Then, secondly, uh, the African Continental Free Trade has mobilized these financial partnerships. For instance, with the African Export-Import Bank, usually called AfRexim Bank. Now, the African Development Bank as well, and the private banks such as Zenith Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, to come up with funding, with financial facilities, with credit lines, which will be available throughout the continent to young people, to women in an inclusive way, and of course also to big operators. So the answer to that is an affirmative yes. Now let me talk a little bit just about the cooperation that we have with AfRexim Bank. With AfRexim Bank, we are putting in place a Pan-African payment and settlement system. This is more modeled along the SADC series system. I don't know whether you have heard of it, or the COMESA regional payment and settlement system. This is a system where if you want to make a payment, say to Ghana or to Egypt, and you're in South Africa, you can initiate the payment in your local currency, in Rand, but the person who receives it will receive it in their own currency. So this helps us deal with this challenge of always having to use foreign currencies like dollars, where payments are routed through New York and take a long time, and we are charged huge fees for effecting this transaction. And this is this problem that we have more than 40 different currencies on the continent. So this initiative of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System is really transformational as we work towards monetary harmonization and cooperation. But in addition, AfRexim Bank has also put in place what's called an adjustment facility, where countries that experience any revenue losses can apply for funding from that facility. But also this facility will provide funding directly to the private sector for industrial upgrading, acquisition of equipment and technology, and all these other things that SMEs and businesses need funding in order to do. So there's that facility as well. But as I said, we have this aggressive campaign to mobilize also private sector funding from banks such as Zenith Bank, Standard and Chartered Bank, to establish credit lines that are dedicated to funding intra-African trade, which, as I was beginning to say, has huge potential to grow, and we need to exploit it. Now, maybe let me just end by pointing out a few things. First of all, on quality, I would like to agree with you, my brother Mlangeni, that quality is of utmost importance. It is not just for the safety of consumers, and we are all consumers, you and I are consumers of the general public. It is also for attractiveness. If you have a product that's of good quality, that's well packaged, you will attract a better price than if you have a poor quality product which is not even well presented at all. So we need to pay attention to the aesthetics of it, you know. It's extremely important, not just for safety, but also for marketing purposes and for price purposes. So it's extremely important. Then secondly, I would like to really agree with you that the expos that you organize are a very important opportunity for engaging economic operators, especially small ones. And I saw a question in the chat box about this. So this is an opportunity for you to disseminate information and for these producers to display what they have, to show us what they have, so that what they have can be available for purchasers and to promote their production capabilities as well. So I wanted really to agree with that. Now there's a question about where do you get the tariff schedules, you know, information on the products which are zero rated and things like that. So the South African Revenue Services, SARS, on their website, there should be this information if you check on it. Or if not, you can check with the DTI there will be information.
Actually, Doc, if you would allow me, we've gone for a whole hour and we haven't engaged the guys commenting from the outside. So I'd just like to take a minute to go through our comment section. For those watching, please do continue to comment, ask questions, so that we can take this opportunity to answer as much of your questions as possible. We have a comment from Ian Swartz. Awesome to join this conversation, such a relevant topic. Then we have Tembisile Mnisi, who says United States of Africa. I look forward to that one day. And then we also have a comment from Ivan Christo, who says hashtag fair trade municipality, first fair trade municipality in South Africa. Thank you for that, Ivan. Then Tembi says, how can businesses in the informal sector get involved and start to trade, as this will create jobs? I don't know, who can I throw this to? Should I throw it to you, Moses, since you are manager of economic growth? So how can businesses in the informal sector get involved and start to trade, as this will create jobs?
Yes, thank you, Musa, for that, and thanks to Tembi for the question. And like I had said earlier on, South Africa, and I think also other African states as well, we have this situation of a tale of two economies. You have a formal economy and then you have an informal economy. So now the informal economy, which you've got the informal sector, you have various challenges at the moment, but from a municipality point of view, we try to assist a lot and we focus in that area. Businesses in the informal sector often are not registered. They don't have papers, they don't have company registration, they don't have business bank accounts, they don't have tax clearance certificates. That is one thing that we focus on a lot here in our municipality, to say to the guys out there, listen, if you want to take advantage of the opportunities out there, maybe you need to, formalize your business somehow, even if it's small, but make sure that it is registered. Make sure that you have a business bank account. Make sure that you have the right paperwork. All the other stuff that you were talking about earlier on, in terms of, there's a lot of paperwork involved in terms of trying to ship, to trade or transport your goods from South Africa to country B or country X. It is the nature of business, and Dr. Mangeni, I think, can confirm this. Business, it's about compliance, it's about having all the right papers. Initially, it may sound like, it's quite a lot of papers. But if you tell yourself that, look, you want to attempt, complete all the paperwork, much as it may look like it's a long list but that is how business is, we encourage our small businesses, those that is in the informal sector, to start to see these as standard business requirements. You need to make sure that your paperwork is good. It's not only for people out there, it's also for yourself. It is easy to report, it's easy to account to the other people that you work with, it's easy to plan. We are working hard with other stakeholders, like we've got the Small Enterprise Development Agency, we've got the Small Enterprise Financing Agency, with various institutions that we work with here. And here in Drakenstein, I think Nedbank also has a section where they assist businesses in terms of formalizing their papers, So we definitely focus on that, to try and say, listen, for you to take advantage, for you to participate properly, register, formalize as much as possible, even though you are a small business. So being small doesn't mean you mustn't have a bank account, a business bank account, or a tax clearance certificate for that matter.
Can I catch you there? We have quite a lot of questions and we're fast running out of time. I'm so sorry, Moses. Okay, there's a question from Ivan that says, Dr. Mangeni, you have mentioned scaling in informal trading. Do you feel that in Africa, given the various challenges that we face, we need a different scaling strategy to the rest of the world? What do you think would be the best way to do this?
Yes, first of all, small-scale trade or small-scale production is extremely important in the economy. I think more than 90% of the jobs are in this sector, so it's extremely important. But also, we need to bear in mind that at 70%, I think this is the figure, of small-scale traders, cross-border traders, are women. So there's also a gender perspective. And these tend to be the poorest of the poor who are trying to make a living, and we need to support them. So then the second thing I would like to say is that we don't want to increase informality. Just as our brother has been saying, Mlangeni, we want to formalize small-scale business, small SMEs. We want to formalize, to get them into the formal sector. And he has actually explained the benefits of doing this. We don't want to keep money in our mattresses. Rats may eat them, or they will get stolen or something like that. We need to bank this money, earn an interest on it. And we need to keep a proper accounts so that we know whether we are making a profit or a loss and things like that. So we need to be compliant. So now, in practical terms, what we have been doing as regional organizations to support these small-scale traders is to introduce simplified trade documents. So we try to simplify documents. In COMESA, for instance, I think it's also being introduced in SADC, we have got the simplified trade regime, where small traders don't have to comply with all the extensive documentation ordinarily required of big businesses. And then we introduce officials at the borders to help small-scale traders. Some of them may even be illiterate, to help them, understand what they are supposed to do. So yes, we can have a different strategy for Africa, and we already have good practices that we can build on continentally. But please let us not criminalize small-scale trade. Let us work with them, help them to formalize and to do their business better. So Musa has told us that we are running out of time, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. I hope that responds to the question adequately, even if it is very brief.
I think if it's not, maybe you could also join our Facebook platform, Doc, and answer some of these questions more intensively, if that is a possibility. We also have a question from Tembi that says, is there a list published by the different countries with the zero tariffs, and where can we find it?
Yeah, so I had tried to respond to this one by saying that if you check the South African Revenue Services website, right, you'll find it. You'll find this information. Or
so in a case where it's not South Africa, in a case where it's Kenya, in a case where it's Namibia, in a case where it's because this platform caters to the region. So
right.
What if I'm in Nigeria? Is there a place where a platform where I can find the countries with zero tariffs?
Yes. So there are three ways you can find that other information. So first of all, it is supposed to be on the SARS website as well. It is you are supposed to have information about trading with other countries as well. But if it's not there, then you can try the Department of Trade and Industry. That one is required. That one is actually required. Member states are required through their designated ministries to disseminate this information to all stakeholders. Yes. Then the other point of contact could be the website of the African Continental Free Trade Area. If you go to the website of the African Continental Free Trade Area, you'll find a link to the tariffs. Then the third one is you check the trade portals, which I was referring to earlier, or the trade ministries of the countries you want to export to. If you want to export to Ghana, so you search Ghana Trade Ministry. or Ghana Trade Portal, and then you'll find that information as well. So what I would like to confirm is that this information is required to be available. It's just that as we speak now, we have 41 tariff offers. Only 41 countries have produced these schedules, as they are called. So it will be progressive. There are other countries which will come on board. So this information will be available progressively to become more and more complete over time.
Okay, that's great. We have Tembi. Thank you so much for the comments. She says we urge the municipality to start engaging with businesses and organizations on a local level on how this can be structured. She also says to avoid monopoly, it is important that businesses, organizations, and countries openly discuss their needs in order to ensure that production and trade are specific and targeted within Africa. And then she also states that the Fair Trade City of Drakenstein campaign is definitely a vehicle to promote this important initiative. We've been going for over an hour now, and I think we need to try and round it up. As a representative of fair trade, I would want to find out, Doc, how fair are the policies that are being implemented within intra trade in Africa? Are we considering people above profit? Are we being fair? Are we considering the environment? Are we considering issues such as climate change? I know it's a huge question to ask at the end of the topic, but I feel like it's something that we cannot run away from, even as we are trying to close. Are we being fair through the implementation of this AfCFTA?
Right. So now, this is why I started off by saying that we really appreciate, as Secretariat, you having put on this event, and that this event is an opportunity to get feedback, all right, as Secretariat, but also as governments and maybe other stakeholders as well. So that's the first point to make. Then the second point to make is that I now call upon you to wage this campaign for fair trade within Africa and take it to the African Continental Free Trade Area. And this can be done in several ways. First of all, what you are doing now, that is engaging the Secretariat and the other stakeholders. Secondly, engaging DTI, the ministry, the Department of Trade and Industry, that when they go to the meetings to discuss with their colleagues across the continent, they now discuss fair trade as well as a standing agenda item, as well as all these other issues of inclusion, women in trade, youth or young Africans, SMEs. We are already discussing this. These things are already off the table. They are being discussed. We're actually going to have a protocol on women and youth in trade, but we need to maintain the momentum. And that's why campaigners are very helpful in, giving input to government officials, to their representatives who go to the negotiations to produce rules and instruments that need to be complied with. So I urge you to keep the fire burning, to continue the momentum. And then lastly, let me just say that the African Continental Free Trade Area, and we have made no secret of this, must be inclusive. It's not for government, it's for stakeholders. And it's not just for the big companies, it is especially for SMEs, for women, for the youth, for the marginalized sectors. These are the people who need to be helped up, who need to be pulled up, and therefore they should benefit maximally from the African Continental Free Trade Area. So this message of inclusiveness is one that's very dear to the Secretary General, His Excellency Menawa Mkele, whom you know is South African, of course. Yeah. So he keeps talking about it at practically every event where he speaks. And it is infused through all the processes that we engage in the African Continental Free Trade Area. So, so please help us as stakeholders to keep the fire burning, to scale it up so that we don't lose sight of it. But I would like personally to see that word fair trade mentioned more often in the African Continental Free Trade Area. Specifically, we have been talking about inclusiveness, but I want fair trade specifically. So please help us to get the message across. Thank you.
I think there's definitely
I
a
wanted
lot
to
of
add,
space.
yeah.
Sorry, Moses. I think there's definitely a lot of space for us to continue this conversation in ensuring that fair trade is a huge part of the conversation within the AfCFTA. Moses, you were going to say, and then also maybe if you can
Yes,
include your closing remarks in there,
yes.
Moses.
Yes, I will definitely do that and include my closing remarks. But what I wanted to say in support to what Dr. Mangeni has just said in response to your question about free trade, I have found it to be unfair trade that Africa, all the first grade goods that we produce, we've been told oftentimes first grade must go to Europe, first grade must go to America. We've been consuming grades of goods lower, the second grade, the third grade. You can see it even in products like apples. They'll tell you, oh, it's a third grade potatoes, third grade this. So fair trade, please make sure that we as Africans must consume first grade products, from Africa, no longer second grade or third. I want to have first grade of everything that is produced here. So it is through your work that I think we will be able to achieve that. So in conclusion, and it's linked to the point that we were just highlighting on a free, a fair trade. So, I like cashew nuts. But if you go to Woolworths now, you try to buy cashew nuts. I think in a packet there's probably 10 cashew nuts. And, it's such a highly priced product, cashew nuts and all these very nice nuts that we like to eat. They are highly priced. But they're just from here around the corner. They're from Mozambique, and so that's also things to consider from your fair trade approach. How is it that things that is just here close by us are so expensive to us, and a lot of people can't even afford cashew nuts. They love them, but they can't afford them. And so how are we going to sort those things out? And I think my concluding remarks is to say thank you to yourself, the World Fair Trade Organization, and thank you to Dr. Mangeni, all the information that you've shared with us today. It's very valuable, and we will make sure our small businesses actually start to see this as an opportunity to expand their markets, instead of just looking at the the feet of the people in the streets. They need to start to understand that, the market is actually bigger. Like you said, Africa is the market, not Cape Town or your corner there or corner there. Africa is your market. Thank you so much.
Yes, I would actually like to throw your challenge to Doc and say, I think a major chunk of these things is about the tariffs and how expensive it has been to trade with each other, which is why you find we end up having second grade oranges, third grade apples, and all of that. So I think there is definitely space for us to get into a room and whether it's coming up with legislation, policy, or I don't know, campaigns, just to educate people, make people aware of valuing each other, first of all, as Africans, and wanting to serve each other as Africans, even though it's from a business perspective. We could go on talking forever. We've been talking for an hour, 20 minutes. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking up this opportunity and coming to talk to us as World Fair Trade Organization, Africa and Middle East. We really appreciate the information that you've given us, and I hope that those who've been watching, engaging with us, have also benefited from the information that was given here. We want, by all means, to continue to be a platform that provides necessary information that gives small businesses, social enterprises, more space to grow. And so this was very, very valuable, very beneficial. So I thank you both for this. And I hope you guys will join us again when we call upon you to engage us in further conversation. So from me, Musa Mpofu from World Fair Trade Organization, Africa and Middle East, it's a good afternoon. It's still a good morning, actually, from South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations. Yeah, on a very good conversation.
Thank you.
What can you, I, we do? Unite to change, empower, lead, and innovate. Because fair trade matters.